Our plan is right back on track.
So you got the kid?
You damn right I got him. Just like we said from the beginning, we're going to get the money from Ghost for holding his son. And then we're going to kill them both. You good with that, right?
The older Jukebox makes a lot more sense, especially now that we're 3 seasons deep, and more so after the events of 402 with Jukebox in basic training. They've been building the foundation with Jukebox for a while, and the writers have been going really deep in terms of giving this character a lot of heartbreaks and setbacks, to the point where they've actually been breaking her piece by piece. Looking at the character that we saw on Power, we would have all said, she's a problem, she's a psychopath, she's one of the coldest characters we've ever seen on Power. But getting to the Jukebox that we saw on Power was always going to be a long journey. There was always going to be a process to turning this Jukebox into this adult version of Jukebox. She lost Nicole, had the fight with Marvin, reconnected with her moms who left at a young age, but that relationship also broke another piece. You then look at Marvin being in prison, with much of her childhood being spent under rock. Just have a look at who she has a close bond with. There was then her music career, which has always been up and down, but now is finally down and out for good. We've seen the few scenes in the trailer for season 3 where Duke seems to be packing up all her old music gear, and now it's time to take out the trash and enter this new phase. So in this breakdown, we're going to be going through quite a few topics when it comes to Duke. We're going to take a look at what led to her joining the army, music, why I think it's important to never let anybody crush your hopes and dreams, which is what we saw in this conversation with Aisha's parents in 401. We're then going to talk about some parallels from the younger Jukebox to the older Duke, and then rounding off with some thoughts and theories as well as some predictions on why Duke will be hitting rock bottom in season 4. Hailey Kilgore has teased in various interviews, this is the character who's going to have nowhere to turn. She's going to have no option. She will be hitting rock bottom in season 4, and it is also going to be the beginning of her villain arc. So definitely a lot to look forward to when it comes to Duke's evolution. But first, let's take it back a step when she was contemplating joining the army. Now, early season 3, we saw Jukebox toying with the idea and contemplated joining the army. That was straight after the death of Detective Shannon Beck. Throughout season 2, a lot of us thought Detective Beck would be the one to influence her into becoming a cop, because there were quite a few moments between the two. You could tell that Beck really had a soft spot for Duke, especially because of Nicole's death. And then they had a lot in common in terms of how both of them weren't accepted for who they were and what they wanted to be. We know Duke's had a lot of issues in terms of being accepted because of her sexuality. It was a big thing back then. For Detective Beck, she was never accepted as a female cop in the family, but she wanted to carry on the family tradition and prove she did have what it takes to become a very well respected detective. And let's be honest, even though she was getting too close to the Thomases, she never really quite reached the Cooper Saxe level of being an annoying cop. And she did also pretty much figure out the entire history between Detective Howard, Rock, and also Kanan. She just sounded very crazy because she was obsessed in finding justice and getting down to the truth when Detective Howard constantly warned her, leave this shit alone. But Detective Beck and Jukebox had a lot in common, and after her death, which Jukebox knew wasn't a suicide by the way, Jukebox was looking on at Howard during her funeral, and she definitely knew. You can't fool someone like Jukebox. So it was after everything that happened with Detective Beck, which did push Duke into thinking she wants out of this mess in Queens. However, music did give her a bit of hope and purpose in season 3. There was still a chance she could do something great with music. She got accepted into this girls group with Crystal and Aisha. She put in a lot of time, effort, as well as blood, sweat and tears into trying to make this work. She literally had to fight for a position. But once Detective Tanner came along, once the trouble with law enforcement came towards the end of season 3, it pretty much spelled the end. And once her music career was done, there was nothing really left for her in Queens. She didn't want to go to college like Aisha. Music was done, so she really didn't have too much left. In the flashback, we also saw Jukebox having this conversation with Aisha and her parents. And at this moment in time, we were still in the timeline where things were going really good with the music group. Both of them still had hopes and dreams that it could be something really big. Maybe they could have become huge artists, because you just never know. Until you try, you never really know how close you really are to the diamonds. Sometimes you just have to dig a little further, and I did actually have a section in my audio for 401, which is something I have discussed before. That breakdown got way too long, over 30 minutes, so I did decide to cut that section out of the audio. But what I mentioned was how Raising Kanan's writing team and Sasha Penn make the events that these characters go through really relatable to what we go through. Over on X, I created a thread on Marvin and why his drug use makes so much sense. Well, for this one's even more relatable, Because I'm sure everyone's been in the position where someone's tried to shit on your dreams, vision, or your hard work. The worst thing is, sometimes it even comes from your family or your friends. You tell them you're thinking of starting maybe a podcast or anything else. How many actually turn around and say, go for it? Or do they tell you to take the safer option? In 10 years' time, you don't want to think, what if? What could have been? If I just tried or put in just a little more effort, or if I didn't let someone shit on my vision, what could have been?
When I was a kid, I knew all the songs on the radio. I could imitate anybody.
Oh, you good?
I was better than good. I was great.
So that's just a little thought, and actually a message from the writers to tellers, especially those who are in and around Jukebox and Aisha's age. Definitely don't let anybody tell you what you can and can't do, which is why Mr. Bingham really is a real one. He's the one who came to Jukebox with the opportunity, and when Juke had this conversation where she was thinking about joining the army, he didn't beat around the bush. He told her there will be certain societal issues that will make it very difficult. He didn't put Juke off the idea, he just kept it real. But more importantly, he said go and live her dream and try and do something great with music, because that's what Nicole would have wanted for Jukebox. So you really do have to give credit where it's due. Mr. Bingham did try and tell Jukebox, don't give up on music. Now we've been through how it turned upside down, and we did see Juke join the army in 402. We even saw a few scenes with her in basic training, and I really don't think anybody was surprised that she absolutely smoked some of these guys in these drills.
She run these streets harder than some of these men.
She used to run these streets harder than some men, and we are going to come back around to that in just a moment. But I very briefly touched on this at the beginning of my breakdown for 402. Kanan's narration gave the breakdown of soldiers versus killers, and how being a soldier, you learn discipline, you learn strategy, you learn how to plan. And this is what Hailey Kilgore meant when she did her interview with the People. The parallels are definitely going to start to show between the younger and the adult version of Jukebox. And this is just one of the parallels. The way Jukebox learned discipline, even though it was just a very short stint with the army, the way she learned discipline, strategy, how to plan, her character in Power makes so much more sense.
You know, fuck that. He is the hustle. Ransom his ass. You get the money and kill him anyway. This way you break him twice. Once in the pocket, once in the heart.
With Jukebox back in Power, when she made a plan, you stick with the plan. She always had a strategy, and that's the one you go with. You don't steer away from the strategy. She was very disciplined with her plan and also with her soldiers. If they ever stepped out of line or disobeyed her orders, she treated them like soldiers who have made a move against her, kill or be killed. Jukebox was ruthless in Power, and now that we've seen her join the army, even though it was for a very brief period, you go back over and look at the older Jukebox, you can really see the soldier traits in the character. Of course, her going to the army isn't going to be the only thing that slowly kind of molds her into the older version of Jukebox, which is where I want to bring it over to some thoughts and theories, as well as a couple of predictions for Jukebox going forward in Season 4. Now, Hailey Kilgore, who does play Jukebox, she has teased Juke will be hitting a rock bottom at some point in Season 4. There is going to be a moment, or maybe a few moments, which really do break her. And I personally think, and it's just a prediction, her latest love interest won't turn out to be who she thought, or maybe she gets betrayed, or maybe there's some sort of hidden agenda. Just when she thinks she's found someone, and in another happy moment, something's going to twist her world once again, and this time around, I don't think she's going to have any tears left to give, or even if she has, they're going to be very different. We saw her break when Nicole died, when she had the fight with Marvin, when she went through the horrible time with Kenya. There were a few happy moments in Season 3, but in Season 4 it has been teased she's going to be hitting rock bottom. And when she does, I don't think any tears will be shed. The villain arc will definitely be born. This is someone who is fully going to turn. Maybe not into the Jukebox that we saw in Power. I do think she's going to still have to go through a bit more in terms of getting her first kill, which I do think will happen at some point in Season 4. I still think she's going to have to get her first kill. We need to see her being feared in the streets and so much more. But this is the season where we're finally going to see her turn and get even closer to the cold Jukebox we saw in Power. I always make reference to some of the things we had and saw in Power, and from time to time, I really do think it is worth reminding ourselves that when Kanan mentioned who was holding Tariq, you really did see the fear in Ghost's eyes. When Ghost spoke to Tommy later on about the whole situation, Tommy called her a crazy bitch, and for Tommy to call someone crazy, I mean that really is saying something. These are all the details Sasha Penn and the writers would have known all about before. They would have done their due diligence and their homework, and we are definitely going to start to see a different side to Juke after she hits rock bottom, for whatever reason it may be. But if I was a betting man, I think it's probably something to do with this new love interest. Now, something else I really am intrigued to see in Season 4, maybe in Season 5, and also in Power Origins, is where they take her relationship with Kanan. I do think there are going to be a few loving moments between the two, just like we've seen before, and like we're going to see them have one in Episode 3. But I think they've also foreshadowed moments which will probably start to tear their relationship as well. We know Jukebox has a very close relationship and a different relationship with Rock compared to Kanan. We've also seen Juke keeping a close eye on Kanan in the streets and reporting it back to Rock before, towards the end of Season 3. And I wonder if and when Kanan starts to steer away from Rock, whether that could start to be one of many reasons that just start to chip away at this relationship. We know she's never seen eye to eye with Crystal. Could something happen here? Because they are giving a lot of screen time to Crystal, and when they start adding these characters around the Thomases who start to mean something, I think that's when we should be quite wary and think, okay, where are they going with this particular story and with this particular character? Where are they going to be going with Crystal, Lou's love interest, and also Jukebox's love interest? It definitely should be something we should be thinking about going forward. But that's a breakdown of where we are with Juke's character arc at this moment in time. Some throwbacks to Power, her mindset, and some thoughts, theories, and predictions. So the floor is now yours. Let me know where you see Juke's character going in Season 4. Why do you think she's going to hit rock bottom? And when she does, how do you see her turning? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section. And as always, thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you next time.